Welcome to the Life Podcast, where we explore longevity insights for everyone. So how can we all live longer, healthier lives? So I'm Dr. Lucy Hooper. I'm a GP and co-founder of Coin Medical in London, here with my co-founder and also known as my husband, Dr. Hugh Coyne.
Hi, I'm Dr. Hugh Coyne, and I am also a GP. I'm one of the tallest GPs in Fulham, and I have been clinging on to Lucy's coattails for decades now, and we are very lucky to have a fabulous practice with a wonderful group of GPs, and we are particularly focused on the prevention and screening of disease. So, Lucy, Dr. Theodore Topol lamented that very few physicians had the necessary skills and knowledge to recommend physical exercise as a therapeutic modality for diseases. Do you know when he bemoaned this lack of knowledge amongst our esteemed colleagues?
I do not know that little niche of history.
It was in 1907. So plenty enough time ago, and we still seem to be in an era when we have certain colleagues who are bemoaning the lack of prescription of physical exercise amongst doctors.
I think definitely yes. So I'm guessing today we are going to be talking about the benefits of physical exercise.
That is correct.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about exercise.
Great. Okay. So tell us. So why is he still correct over 100 years later?
Well, he was probably even correct even before that. So exercise is encoded in our DNA. It is a canonical evolutionary characteristics of humans, and it remains embedded in our genes. And as doctors, we often regard exercise as the intervention, but I don't think it is. Exercise is actually the normal human condition, and a sedentary existence, the collateral damage of the modern human condition, or the modern lifestyle. The sedentary existence is the intervention.
So thinking of that, like sitting is the disease.
Sitting is a disease.
Rather than exercise being the cure.
Exactly, yeah. And lack of physical activity to that end is the major etiological factor in many of the non-communicable, so the non-infectious diseases that affect us. So I wanted to talk to you about how integral exercise is to our cultures. I know we often talk about this around the kitchen table, that I bore you to tears with my enthusiasm for exercise. So I'm going to bore you a little bit more. And I want to read you a passage from Liam O'Flaherty's short story, The Stone, which was written in 1937. And being a prominent socialist, he probably wouldn't be the usual fodder for a pair of private GPs living in Parsons Green.
Okay.
So
okay, I'm ready.
Here's the extract. It was a great day in each young man's life when he raised the stone from the ground and gave it wind, as they said. And if he raised it to his knees, he was a champion, the equal of the best. And if he raised it to his chest, he was a hero, a phenomenon of strength. And the men talked of him. Whereas he who failed to lift it from the ground became the butt of everybody's scorn. It had always been so, from the time of the most remote ancestors of the people.
It sounds like a sort of very early high rocks they had going on there.
Yes, very, very, very much so. And topical, of course, because I am doing a high rocks in a couple of weeks with eminent colorectal surgeon Mr. Oliver Warren, and no doubt, men will speak of it when we finish our high rocks.
I've no doubt in 90 years' time, someone will be talking about it on a podcast.
Yes, hopefully for all the right reasons, giving wind to the wall balls. So this story actually describes an old man who is wandering around an island off the coast of Ireland. And as he ruminates on his life, its tragedies and its triumphs, he comes across a lifting stone, which he in his youth had lifted and demonstrated his manhood, his social standing. And in an attempt to relive his past glories, he makes an effort to give wind to the stone, to lift it off the ground. But he dies in the process. And at his funeral, the young people of the town begin to try to lift the stone in his honor. And lifting stones like these are famous in Ireland and Scotland, but they appear in the writings of St. Jerome in the Middle East, and there's evidence of ancient lifting stones throughout what is now Greece and Palestine and Egypt.
Okay. So lovely story, lovely story there, Hugh. But why are we talking about it now in 2025?
So the reason is that strength is incredibly important culturally, but it is important culturally because it is important medically. Muscle mass and strength are crucial to longevity. And for a variety of reasons, as we age, muscle strength and size diminish. The age-related decline in muscle mass occurs across species, so from frogs to flies and from worms to rats. Every living creature with muscle is subject to its inexorable decline. No one is spared, but the extent of the decline varies from person to person.
Okay, so we're all in decline then, it sounds like. But so what is more important then, having more muscle or, being stronger, being able to lift one of those ancient stones?
Well, obviously, for me, having more mass is important because that's, involving mirrors. But medically, both muscle mass and strength are important. So the effects of strength on mortality have been studied in a huge meta-analysis. So meta-analysis is a study of studies. So it collates loads of studies together. And this one included almost 2 million people. And it found that higher levels of both upper and lower body strength were associated with lower risk of death from any cause.
Okay, and was that just in old people or does that apply to all of us?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the association wasn't just in the frail elderly, it was a pattern of lower risk of death throughout adulthood.
Okay. And then, so what about having more muscles, having bigger, bulkier muscle mass in your t-shirt?
Yeah. So obviously that is of crucial importance on the beach in the summer, for me at least. But in a study of over 4,000 older Americans, higher muscle mass was found to be associated with a lower risk of dying again from any cause. And these findings were actually independent of the effects of having higher muscle mass on our metabolism.
Okay. I think I lost you slightly there. Can you can you explain that to me again?
Okay, so just to explain that, higher muscle mass increases the expression of GLUT4 receptors. So these receptors play a crucial role in the uptake of glucose by our muscles. So the benefit is not just from this metabolic effect, which is obviously of crucial importance in preventing metabolic syndrome and diabetes, which then lead on to cardiovascular disease. It's also thought that larger muscles provide a reservoir of protein, which at a time of crisis, such as recovering from a prolonged illness or having an operation, can be tapped into. So it can be used as a fuel source, as a source of fuel for recovery from illness or operations. And also, muscle mass is a determinant of what is known as functional capacity.
Okay, you might need to explain that a bit more to people. I'm not sure everyone will know.
Okay, so functional capacity is our ability to perform everyday tasks. So across a whole range of conditions, this might be cancer, age-related muscle loss, frailty, and difficulties with balance. So muscle mass has a huge impact on not only preventing these, but ameliorating some of the effects of these. So if we think of someone who has a cancer, for example, and needs to have an operation, they will, if they go into that with much higher muscle mass, the recovery is going to be that much easier and better.
Yeah, and I think, I think there've been some really great studies, particularly the old orthopedic surgeons, obviously a lot of those surgeons, I think, like a bit of weightlifting themselves.
Yeah. They're very into their longevity, the orthopedic surgeons.
They do.
Yeah. I think our biggest population of doctors seeking health screenings is orthopedic surgeons.
I think, maybe they're just really looking forward to their retirement. They just really want to make sure they're healthy. But what I was thinking of is that I know there's been quite a lot of work, and I think maybe started by them around protein and recovery for surgery. And I don't think it's as common here, but in the US, it's really common that people will get a whole load of protein shakes to take in the build up to their surgery to try and optimize their intake and help their healing and recovery. I don't see that done as commonly here, but I think it is actually a really sensible step, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's some interesting practices in the US around that, going even further than prescribing protein supplementation and prescribing things like growth hormone and anabolic agents to help increase muscle mass after surgery.
Okay, wow. I didn't realize they'd gone that far. But certainly extra protein, I do think actually is a really sensible thing for people to do around surgery and around illness when people are going through things, making sure they have enough protein intake is really good, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely crucial. And it's really important to be getting sufficient protein for muscle synthesis, because to put it in a very simplistic form, protein obviously being the building block of muscle, if you like, we need to have sufficient protein available for our body to make more muscle or to repair muscle. So we talk to our patients a lot about having 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight of protein to help protein muscle synthesis. And actually in older people, or people who are in catabolic states, so that's the state of muscle loss. So for example, a catabolic state might be during illness or after an operation. People might even need even more protein. So up to 2.2 grams per kilo of body weight would be really common to stimulate muscle synthesis.
And I should say, I mean, apart from perhaps yourself, who loves eating eggs, but it's actually quite challenging to eat that much protein. Whenever I have deliberately tried to really track and do that, say for a day, and look up and Google, every meal and work out how many grams of protein you've eaten in that meal and then add it up, it's actually really hard to hit 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, isn't it?
Yeah. And if you think it's hard for you to hit that, for me, at many kilos heavier, it's a lot of protein to eat. Yeah.
It's a lot of protein, isn't it? And I think that's why I think personally, I don't think I could ever hit that target without using a supplement. I just don't think I could physically eat that much. Certainly not of protein. Maybe cake, but maybe we need more high protein cakes.
High protein cakes. I think there is a trend towards that in the US, actually.
Yeah.
High protein cakes.
Okay. But it might not be very good for my blood sugar, but but it is tough. I think it's important to acknowledge that it's tough.
Absolutely. And protein is by its nature very satiating, so it's filling, and that's why people find it tough to eat that amount of protein. And it's not always to everyone's taste.
Okay, but let's go back a bit then to the exercise that we were talking about. So, we were talking about these kind of big functional movements like squats and things like that. So if you're, starting squatting, then, you're going to be able to do more of those activities for longer. That's really what we're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's partly the benefit in our functional capacity and our ability to do those everyday activities. But strength training has also been found to be a potent antidepressant. It's been found to improve morale and quality of life. And of course, it's going to improve quality of life because people are going to be able to do everyday tasks like getting up from a chair or going upstairs. They're going to find it that much easier if they're stronger. The benefits of strength training are also long lasting. So there was a study recently in Denmark, and it followed 450 people in older age. Well, they weren't that old, actually. They just retired. And one group did heavy resistance training for a year. One group did some gentler band-based workouts. And one group just mostly hung around. And the researchers followed them up over 2 years and then over 4 years, and they found that only the heavy resistance training group had leg strength that didn't decline. And this is likely due to neural adaptation. So basically, our nervous system and the interplay between our nerves and our muscles remembering the strength training. So the benefits are really long lasting.
Okay, so I'm sold on the benefits of strength training. So, how much you need to do, because, I love running and I do love training in the gym as well, but it is sometimes hard to fit everything in. So how much strength training can I get away with?
So the great thing is that it doesn't take a huge amount of resistance exercise. And I'm going to use resistance exercise and strength training interchangeably, but they're both the same thing, but it doesn't take a huge amount to reap the benefits. So there was a longitudinal study of over 12,000 people that was done in Dallas in Texas, and it found that as little as one strength exercise session a week was enough to significantly reduce mortality. And it found that the optimal frequency of resistance exercise, of strength training to reduce mortality, was twice a week. And this finding was completely independent of whether or not people were doing aerobic exercise, so whether or not people were doing running like you love to do. And it showed that a higher frequency of weight training didn't show any mortality benefits. So although I love to go to the gym loads of times a week, that is not going to help me live any longer. That is predominantly vanity, as you knew already.
Okay, so twice a week we're going with. Okay, great.
And actually there was a meta-analysis on resistance training and mortality, and it found that as little as 30 to 60 minutes of resistance training a week had the greatest effect on mortality. So not only does it not need to be that frequent, it doesn't need to be very long either.
Well, that's even better news for me, my time poor existence. Okay, so twice a week, which actually is exactly what we tell people in our health screening, isn't it? We're like, if you can get strength training in twice a week, that's really optimal for longevity.
Yeah, and I suppose that's also a key thing to point out, that the focus here is on what has the greatest effect on reducing mortality, rather than what's going to be the best for performance, say, or for weight loss. This is looking at the lens of reducing chances of dying.
Yes, exactly. We don't all want to do a high rocks. Some of us just want to be healthy.
I don't know why. Don't know why not.
I don't know why. Yeah. Okay. So what kind of strength training do you tell people to do? Someone just starting off.
So for someone who's a little bit of a novice exerciser, I try and get them to focus on what I call compound movements. So these are multi-joint movements. And I would try and get them to do that for 30 to 60 minutes twice a week, as we were saying. And I talk to my patients about the big five, which are exercises that I feel have a great practical relevance. And I think the most important of those is the squat, because squats are effectively our ability to get up from sitting. And being independent becomes much more difficult when we cannot get up from sitting. Then we have lunges, which essentially retain our ability to get up and down stairs, or there's variants of lunges like reverse lunges and split squats that, again, work the same muscles that help us get up and down stairs. So again, about retaining independence. Deadlifts will help us be able to pick things like little children or other objects off the floor. Push-ups or press-ups, which are about being able to push yourself off the floor if you fall. And then shoulder presses, which are all about the ability to be able to get something down from a shelf or from an overhead locker in the Eurostar so that you can still go to Paris. They are all things that have a functional usefulness. And if you can't do this amount, so 30 to 60 minutes twice a week, I try and get people to even just do 1 minute of one of those exercises per day on 5 days of the week. So to get up and do 1 minute of squats or 1 minute of lunges or 1 minute of deadlifts. And we don't have to use any kind of resistance to do that or weight, additional weight to do that at first. We can just use body weight. And these are exercises that can be adapted and advanced, and we can adapt them to doing single exercises. But 1 minute of squatting is actually quite tiring. And
do you know, I think I heard Colleen Rooney say that she does 60 squats every morning now.
Very impressive. Yeah.
So there
Good
you
on
go.
her.
There you go.
On the Colleen on the longevity bandwagon.
Exactly.
Great. Yeah.
Thought leader who knew on longevity. Good for her. But I think that's the message, that even if you can't do, because I think, say, 30 minutes of weights in the gym might sound quite daunting for someone. But just to there is no too small to start from.
Yeah.
To start from something, and before you know it, you will get stronger.
And the thing I say to people is that anything is better than nothing. You don't have to make it perfect. So if you cannot get to the gym that day, you're too busy, just even if when you come in the door and try and do a few press-ups or a few squats, anything is better than nothing. And it's all about trying to, at the very least, retain what we have.
Yes, that's the thing. At the very least, kind of stop the decline, as we say. Yeah. Amazing. So the main message is do something, lift something.
Yeah, get lifting.
Doesn't have to be an ancient lifting stone like those poor fellas in Ireland.
Doesn't have to be, but it's an option. It's an option. Carry on these traditions.
And that ideally we're aiming for twice a week. But like you said, anything is better than nothing, and to start wherever you are.
Yeah.
And if you would like to hear more of our insights into health, longevity, screening, then listen again to the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Lucy.
Thank you.